Hello everyone, my name is Ronak and you're watching Back to Art. If you work in WPF, you know the standard progress bar is pretty boring. Today we are going to build this rich custom assigned control card completely with dynamic percentages, counts and signatures, striped background and a clean 100% completion state. So here you can see on my screen we have this demo of this app where you have a progress bar with striped lines and several other indicators of the progress. This is a user control that we have created, which has the best part is it is fully reusable. We will cover dependency properties, custom converters, and XAML data triggers. So here I have a small demo where I have this button. On click of this button, the progress bar is assigned a value, and you can see as and when I click on the button, the progress changes. And once it is 100% assigned, the progress bar disappears. So this is what we will be doing in today's video, designing this user control. And a quick note in this tutorial for those who have a tough time understanding this videos created by me in English, you can also access this video or all my videos in other languages. Thanks to YouTube's audio dub feature, you can watch this video in several languages. So just go and click on this gear icon, which is the settings icon, and here now you have the option of an audio track where you can listen to this video or understand this video in several other languages which are available here. So let's move ahead and start Visual Studio and take a look on how we can develop such a video. So I will go ahead and fire up Visual Studio, and for those who haven't subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe to my channel. It means a lot. It motivates me to create more such videos. So here I have Visual Studio. So let me go ahead and create a new project. Let's give this project a name. So let me click on next. Here, so I have selected WPF app in .NET Framework. If you do not find it in your recent templates, please go ahead and search here on the search bar and select WPF with .NET Framework. Click next, give this project a name. So I'll call this project custom progress bar and click on create. Let's wait for the project to load. So here I have the window loaded. Let me change the orientation. Now let's start by first creating a user control. So let's go to Solution Explorer and right click on the project and click on add a user control. Let's give this user control a name. So let's start by renaming it to assigned control card, and click on add. Now we have our user control UI. So let's first start by adding the code behind. Before we design the code, we need to understand the C# data model for this. So let's start with the brains of the operation, the C# code behind this defines the data interface for our control. So let me go to the code view, and first we need two dependency properties. These are the two properties that the user of our control can set directly from the XAML. The first one would be the total controls. So let's start by adding these dependency properties. And the second one would be the assigned controls. So the first one, total controls, will capture the maximum value, and the assigned controls will capture the current progress. So we define these as a standard dependency property. Next, we need the read-only properties. The progress bar needs more than raw counts. We define four read-only properties as dependency properties using a dependency property key, and they are calculated internally and cannot be set by the user. So let's start by adding these read-only dependency properties, which will be used for basic calculation of the values. So let me add them here, and here you can see I have added four dependency properties. One is to calculate the progress, second is to calculate the assigned percentage, the unassigned controls, and the assigned percentage. So these will be the calculated properties and will be read only. So the assigned percentage and the unassigned percentage, these are precise decimal values we will use for sizing the progress bar. Then the progress percentage, that is the rounded integer used for the title text and the state checking. And the unassigned controls, this is a simple count of the remaining items. So next we will add the brains of this program where the actual magic happens, and that is the function called update calculated properties. So let me add it, and then I will explain you what it does. So the update calculated property will basically we'll take our input DPs, the total control and assign controls, to a callback on controls called. So that I have not added yet, but I will add that, and then I will explain what it does. So let me go ahead and add that as well. So here is our callback. And every time the user changes the assigned controls count, this callback runs, and runs this method. It performs the core math, calculating the raw percentage, and then sets the values of all the four properties that we have created over here. So here we have our update calculated properties, which takes the values of total control and assigned controls, and then triggers this uh, update calculated properties control call, and then sets all these read-only properties like progress percentage, assign percentage, and remaining percentage, and so on. And if the total is less than zero, if it is less than zero, then it sets the value to zero. So here is our function, which is the brains, or where the magic happens. We also need to assign these getters and setters for this total controls and assigned controls. So we have not created these properties yet, so let's create these properties. These will be the public accessors, so let me go ahead and add them. So here are our total controls and assigned controls properties, and as soon as I added them, the two errors are now being removed. So now we need something else as well. We also need to get the value and set the value for these uh, properties that we created. So let me go ahead and add them as well. So here we have the get values for the properties that we created. So now our code is pretty much ready. Next, we need the bridge, the value converter. So let me go ahead and add that simple converter to transform a percentage value, which is in double, into a grid length for the progress bar. So let me go ahead and paste in that code here. And this is our class percentage to grid length converter, which inherits the I value converter, and it has two functions or methods: convert and convert back. So it basically converts the value which is in percentage or double into a grid length, and vice versa. So let me save this, and here you can see it basically converts the percentage, for example 22.0, into a star side grid length, and we use grid unit type dot star. So to the column width is proportional to the percentage value. So for example 22.5 will be converted to 22.5%, which will be understood by the width property of our control, so, or the grid. So let me save this. Now we will now that we have everything in the code behind, let's move to the UI and start designing our user control, which is going to be very interesting. So we will first start by creating the resources. So let's start by tackling it that way. Before that, let me set an height and width for our user control. So I want the height to be 150 and the width to be 350 points. Next, we will start the user control resources. So let me copy that, the code that I already have. If I start typing everything, the video will become unnecessarily lengthy. So I have made the code previously ready, and I'm going to explain it. This way it is much easier rather than typing the entire code. So here I have added the Windows resource user control resources, and within the resources, the first thing that I have is to define the converter statically in the XAML resource. Right now it is not available, but once I rebuild the application, it should go, because I have defined this percentage to grid length converter in the code behind. So next, we are defining a few colors, and for the brushes, these are the colors that will define my UI, where I will be using this color palette to change all my controls background and foreground colors. So the assigned control is a color of blue, the unassigned is kind of white, and the text color is a dark shade of gray. Then we have the solid color brushes, which will be using these colors. So the first is basically the same notation, but with the prefixes assigned, unassigned, and text. Here we use assigned color, and now we are using assigned brushes, which will assign the static resource assigned color. Next, we have the visual brush for the striped background for our unassigned section. So as if you remember our control that had an unassigned section at the first and it had stripes. So for to create that, we have created this visual brush which has the tile mode of tile, and we are using this path geometry to repeat it several times until we fill the whole section. So this is our user resource. Next we will move to the border. We'll add a border control, and within that border we will add a grid. So let's start by adding that border, and let's close this border. And within our border, you will soon understand what is the design here. So this border has a thickness of 1, it has a corner radius of 8, a padding of 15, and a border brush of white, not exactly white but a shade of white, and a background of white. So now we will add a grid within it, and let's also close this grid. And this grid has a row definition, height, 4 row definitions, basically 4 rows of height, auto, and star. Then we have the title and legend that I want to add to my grid. So let me add that. So within our grid, let's add some titles. So basically here you can see we have a stack panel, and within our stack panel, let me comment this out so that you can see the design as and when I start coding it. So here in the text block, I have this binding to the progress percentage, and let me also go ahead and remove this binding so that we have a design that you can see. Slowly we will add all the bindings at the end. So here we have our border that we added, and it has a radius of 8, padding of 15, and a border brush and so on. Then we added a grid within it. The first row you can see as here is used for title and legend, and it is of a grid dot row of 0. We have orientation of horizontal and some margin set. We have a text block, and within that text block we had that binding to our text, but I have removed it for now. Then we have an inner stack panel which has an orientation of horizontal, and it has 2 borders. One border is for the assigned legend and the other border is for the unassigned legend, and we are using text blocks after that to represent the value. So now we are done with the stack panel. Next we will move to the progress bar container. So the progress bar is the most critical area. It will use an inner grid with 2 columns to solve the common scaling error. We bind both columns to our calculated percentages. So let's add that grid, and you will soon see what I mean when I say the calculated values. So let me copy the code, and after our stack panel I will go ahead and paste this, and also I will remove this binding that we have over here, and then we'll later on in the code we will add the bindings. So let me go ahead and remove the width properties that are bound here. And here you can see as soon as I remove these, you will see that we have this progress bar which is in the grid row of 1, and we have this style applied, and the data triggers also applied. Basically we are assigning this data trigger to basically to switch from the progress bar to a clean more successfully message. We need a data trigger. So once our progress bar reaches 100%, we want this data trigger to be executed. So here if it monitors the value to be 100, and if the value is 100, the data trigger will execute, where it will set the property of the control or this progress to visibility to collapsed. So basically it will disappear. So that is why we have this data trigger, and for now the visibility is set to visible, and the trigger is set when the value reaches 100. Next we will move to the counts, which will tell the value of the assigned and unassigned. So this grid will basically tell us what is the current value of the assigned and unassigned. So we have now added this grid. We will remove the binding again to see this control, and I will also do this for the next one. And here you can see we have 2 labels, and next to that we will see the values later on, which will be bound to the property from the code behind. Next the final one is the overlay, which will use data triggers to make it visible when 100% is reached. So this is the border that will be displayed, and I will go ahead and add it here. And this also has a binding which I have to remove. So let me go ahead and remove it, and also down here. So once I remove this, you will see all the errors are gone. Let me rebuild our application once just to rule out any errors, and we have a successful application. Now let's slowly start adding the bindings that we had commented earlier. First one is to define the converter statically in the XAML resource. So I will go ahead and uncomment it and see if the error is gone. So yes, the error is resolved. Next, we need to bind the progress bar, the title bar to progress percentage. So let me bind that text property till the font weight. So here after our here, so here let me go ahead and paste this, and let me go and remove these extra space that we have. Okay, so now the first text block over here is bound to the progress percentage, and relative source is accessor type is set to assigned control card, which is our user control. So it binds this property, and basically it will try to find this property progress percentage in this access control card, user control, and it also sets this format to have this percentage format to the value. And the rest of the properties are the text box properties, like font weight and foreground and so on. Next, we will do a similar binding to the other controls. So let me go ahead and make changes to all of those. So the next binding is for the data trigger. So let me copy that. So here we have a data trigger, and I will bind it to this progress percentage. Basically, it will again check our user control for this progress percentage value and bind the property value to this progress bar. And it will also this will be the property that it will check to for a value. It will basically, it will not bind it here, but it will apply the style based on the value of this progress percentage. If it is 100, then it will make the visibility collapsed or visible based on that value. Next, we move on to the other bindings, and those are the inner grid bindings. And here for our column definitions, we had bindings to the assigned percentage and unassigned percentage. So basically these values will set the width of our columns based on the value of the assigned and unassigned properties from on our in our code behind. So let me go ahead and put it over here, and the same thing for our other column. So let me do that. So here I am going to paste this width property, which is bound to the unassigned percentage. So we have the bindings for the assigned percentage and unassigned percentage, and here it will set the value for that. Next, we need the bindings for our text blocks, which are here down here, and we need to assign the values to the assigned control and the unassigned control. So we need to bind the text property. So let's go here and assign the value of our text property. And the next one is again the same, where it will be assigned to the unassigned controls. And here, if you notice, we have the mode as one way and not a two-way binding. So whatever value we set, it is only will be updated on one side, and it is not the other way around, where changes to the grid or the control will change the property value. So it is only one way. And next, one last thing is the completion overlay section, where we need to bind this data trigger, and we need to bind again to the progress percentage value, where it will monitor the value of the progress percentage and set the visibility of the control. So I have done that, and now finally the one last thing is our placeholder for the success icon. And here you can add an icon to indicate a success, and we will soon look at it. But for now, I have this text block which has this text of an emoji, and we need to have a binding here as well. So let me copy that code, and in our text block we will add this binding to our total control, so it will indicate the final value after completion. So I think we are done with making changes to our bindings. So let me first build the application again, and we do not have any errors. Now let's now that our user control is ready, we need to implement this user control in our main window. So let's go to our main window and make a few changes. First of all, let's add a title to our main window and also set the width and height. So let me add this values. So we are having a title to our window, and let's instead of a grid, we will use a stack panel, and let's add a stack panel and close it with a stack panel. And within our stack panel, let's first add a text block, and this text block will just display this text demo of assign controls dynamic. And after adding our title, let's add this user control that we have. And to do that, we have to just put this code over here, and we are using our local instance, and then we are using referring to our assigned control card. And this is the name of our user control. And once you if you do not see your user control, or if you have any errors, it is only a fact that maybe you have not built your application. If you rebuild your application, the user control will be ready to be referenced in your main window. And here I have named my assigned control, or the user control, my progress card, and the total control initial value is 10, and the assigned control value is 0, and the margin is set to 0, 10, 0, and 30, which starts from the left, top, right, and bottom. So now after adding our control, I need a button that will basically trigger or assign the value to our progress bar. This is just for a demo purpose, but in real scenario, you will be assigning the value in the code behind based on some calculation. So here I am triggering it based on the button click. So here I am just have added some styles to our button, like the foreground, background, and border thickness, and so on. And also the hover effect on mouse over, and when it is pressed, I am setting the value to a different color and not the default colors. So I also have this click change progress, which I have to go ahead and add in the code behind. So let me go ahead and paste in that code. And basically what it will do is it will take this my progress bar dot assign controls and take the assigned control value, and also my progress cards or the user controls total controls into these variables. It will check if control current assigned is less than the total. If it is less than the total, then current assigned plus 1, so just assigning one more value every click. And if it is equal, or if you want to reset, then we value reset the progress back to 0. We change the assigned controls value to 0. So let me save this and run our application. This is this button that we have added is just to test the increments of our assigned control property by 1 every time it is pressed. And now you can see we have successfully built a dynamically reusable WPF control using dependency properties for data flow, a value converter that that will be used for proportionally sizing our control, and also data triggers for visually managing the state of our control. So here when I click on the assign next control, it will change the value of the total control and the assigned control properties. And as and when these are changed, you will see that the one-way binding is applied to the binding controls, and it will change the value of our control. So if this tutorial helped you, please like and subscribe. And remember, if English is not your first language, you can still follow along perfectly by selecting your language from the audio track settings below. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video where we will tackle another WPF concept and another control. Till then, bye bye, and keep watching. Bye bye.